Hello, everybody. My name is Eddie Cole, and welcome to Foxway Podcast. Today, I guess this is the second season of the Foxway Podcast, and I am today joined by Tony Cole.
Sup? It's been a while.
It's been quite a while.
It's been
Actually, with the videos themselves on Foxway Extras and in general with the podcast, the last episode was apparently published 4 months ago, and that was the special episode.
so season one wrapped up like 5, 6 months ago.
Yeah, 5 months
Yeah.
ago here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of things have happened during that
Yeah.
time. We have published quite a lot of films, and of course, the one we said that we would talk about a lot when it came out was, of course, the Iridescent. We already talked a lot about it before in the first season, but it wasn't published yet. But now it is. It was published about 2 months ago, and
Yep.
that is probably gonna be our main talking point of today. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
so,
I've got years worth of stories and facts to share today, so please ask away.
okay. Uh, Well, I would assume that most people who are watching this podcast have seen the movie, but
Yes,
now,
and if they have not, please don't watch further than this because this is going to be riddled with spoilers.
actually, I was gonna say one thing before we actually get into the more detailed questions about the Iridescent. I want you, for those people who haven't seen it, sell that film shortly, right now.
If you're a fan of say Tarantino, Guy Ritchie, those type of movies with a lot of intense dialogue, a lot of intensity building, a lot of tension building, and a lot of violence. Go see it. If you like heist films, if you like, um, hmm, how do you put it together? If you want to see Ocean's 11, but with a lot more action and betrayal, treachery, it's your film.
All right, thank you. Now, uh,
Now
so
this is the spoiler zone.
yeah, this is the spoiler zone, and it will probably continue throughout the whole podcast, so you are warned.
Yes.
Uh, so, firstly, I guess we could talk about the process of making this film become a reality from, well, you claim it to have been a decade in the making, so start from there.
Yeah. Well, we will have to go back to 2011. I saw this film called Takers. It's a film starring the late great Paul Walker and also has Idris Elba, Hayden Christensen, better known as Anakin Skywalker, and bunch of bunch of cool guys in it. Like it's an ensemble heist film. It tells the story about this group of bank robbers, and they're chased by a pair of cops, and shit hits the fan as it usually does. And back then, I had this idea of that I wanted to make a heist film with an ensemble cast, bunch of my friends, and well, shit hitting the fan very hardly. And that was the basic idea, and I wrote something down, and well, I guess that is the origins of the iridescent. But back then, I actually envisioned it as kind of like a green screen film because I was planning on getting a green screen, and I wanted to do that like basically in our living room or so. But I wanted to use these very extravagant locations like airports, airplanes, and that kind of stuff. That was my original idea for this. But the idea of the heist group and the whole heist theme and ensemble cast, it stuck with me. And from there we can go. What I was planning about there, we can go a year forward to about 2012, and if you're not familiar with the Grand Theft Auto modding community, this will all sound like a lot of bullshit to you. But there's this Grand Theft Auto San Andreas mod called Design Your Own Mission, where you can basically make your own stories within the game. And this guy I know called Jimmy Leopard made this series called the Platinum Circle, which was basically the Takers, but after the heist. And he had this very cool, unique cast of characters, and they all went after the same briefcase. And then somebody got it, and somebody else tried to get it. Shit hit the fan. There were alliances, and alliances were broken, and just basically these ideas of the Platinum Circle, the Takers. Then I took a little bit of Pulp Fiction, and over the years, it's just started formulating. And by the end of 2012, I had a little bit of a script, and all of the characters were different than what they are today, except for Ryan Aiken. Ryan Aiken's character has been there since the beginning because that there was this I do not remember what this character was called in Platinum Circle, but he was a race car driver, and he had that skin that Ryan Aiken's appearance in the Iridescent is based on. So I was really a big fan of that character in Jimmy Leopard's Platinum Circle, and I took the appearance of the character and the idea that the character was a race car driver, and put that into the original Iridescent script. And the other characters, I have no idea what they were called, but the idea was basically the same as in the Iridescent now. Of course, there were a lot of different twists and turns in that. The original ending was a little bit of a ripoff from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. There was going to be a scene at a pier or a beach where three characters would have the briefcase in the sand, and we have a nice little duel there. Maybe that would have worked as well. Maybe that's something we can use for something else sometime. But yeah, that was the original plan. And but otherwise, like the main idea of the story was very much the same. The ensemble cast, and since the beginning, I didn't want to focus on the heist itself. I wanted to focus on the aftermath of the heist, which is a very, very big theme of the Iridescent. We don't see the heist itself. We just, go through the motions of what happens when you actually get that big prize. And then starts the problem of splitting it, selling it, and using the fortunes. And that I used a little bit more in the 2015 version of the script. And there were actually some scenes where they were actually selling the stuff, but then it would have been too long at the beginning. So those were parts I cut out for the eventual script, the first draft of the Iridescent as we know it today, where between the 2015 and 2019 script, most of the characters are already the same, apart from some name changes and stuff. But in the 2019 version of the Iridescent script, the plot is about the same as it ended up being, and the 2020 rewrite is just basically going over the dialogue and stuff, and that ended up being the final shooting script that we started shooting on August 2020. The rest of the process is basically covered in making of the iridescent. I need
Yes.
water.
Uh, so I guess you kind of talked about it, but the process of making this film was made much easier by the planning we had
Oh
on
yes,
it. And
if we
yes, go on.
yeah if we had done the iridescent in the same way that we've done some of the previous longer films that we have, like some of the Jack Stone entries, we'd still be making the iridescent. We could have been filming it for like 2 years and still never have wrapped it. Because in the earlier Jack Stone films, or other long films of ours like Tom Peak or stuff. We filmed one scene a day, basically, and I always thought that I'm like a snap director. That I I've always preferred the Clint Eastwood style of going with the first take if nothing is like completely horrible about it. For the Iridescent, we were a lot more efficient, especially in planning, because we wrote down all the scenes that could be filmed in the same day and which were around the same location. And the Iridescent is comprised of short but multiple scenes. They're not exactly, if you look at like Jack Stone End of the Line, it's comprised of like 7 scenes that are each like 10 minutes long. Now, in the Iridescent, we have like 30 scenes, of which most are 2-3 minutes long. And obviously, it's easier to film those shorter scenes in one day. So, for example, all the scenes at like Aiken's house, all filmed in the same day. All the scenes at the final location filmed filmed on the same day, and all the locations, all the scenes filmed at Richmond Mansion, all in the same day. In the previous years, we might have done those on separate days. Who knows? And the scenes might have been a lot longer, but now we've kind of moved into a format that's way more like Hollywood and modern script writing, like scenes that go straight into the point. And I guess that's just testament to how much we have developed and like gotten better as like producers and production planners, and well, for me personally as a writer, making things more clear in less words. And I guess that's like the main point of how the Iridescent was so easy to make, even though it's such a massive film on our scale.
Yeah.
You're still there.
Yes, I'm still here. Uh, well, in that case, uh, now that's basically all before the Iridescent and during the filming of the Iridescent. And now that it is out, what do you think of the film?
That's surrealistic. I feel like I'm inside some kind of Dali painting right now, because when you say it like that the film is actually out, well, like I said, I came up with the idea in 2011, and I always kind of saw it as something that I always wanted to do, but I still kind of thought that maybe this is the film I'll do if I make it as a big time director. And don't get me wrong, I still want to do like a $200 million budget version of it. But at some point, I realized that if I don't do this in some form ever, that would be my greatest regret. So now looking back, I'm really happy that we grabbed it and we really went with it and we really did this film. And although I'm certain if I go frame by frame, there are things I do differently. There are things I do better. I'm just so proud of the whole package. Basically, it's surreal to look at. It's surreal that we actually did like an hour and a half film, and yeah, a lot of work went to it. But on top of all that, I think this was a very very good project to learn from. Like I just mentioned, the new like production planning methods that we've used for that film, we've obviously taken those and now we do everything in that style. And we're just getting better and better at it. So in that sense, the best thing about this film is that how big of a learning process it was for us as filmmakers. Now, if we look at the film itself, I'm very happy with the end result, and it's a fun film to watch again and again for years to come. But I also hope that it's just the first of many of these longer films with like standalone stories. And yeah, I'm extremely proud of it, and I'm extremely happy with the reception that it's gotten. I've gotten a lot of great reviews, a lot of great comments on the video itself. a lot of messages, and it's not one of those things that only the filmmaking community has picked up on here, like the League of International Filmmakers. And so we've actually gotten a lot of like a feedback from our family and friends of friends who usually don't watch this stuff. It's gained a lot more attention from people who usually don't even follow our stuff. But obviously, it was a big project, and a lot of people learned about it in the year that we filmed it. We used a lot of locations belonging to relatives and stuff, and everybody's gotten back to me about it. Yeah, it's been great, and there's been a lot of buzz after the film, and well, obviously during the film, before the film, and especially now after the film, I've gotten a lot of messages from a lot of people commending the work, and asking the kind of questions that we're going through here now. Yeah, it's been a true pleasure, and we're very proud to have it there now.
All right. Well,
What about you?
about the Iridescent, I uh, I think it's a pretty good film. I I don't know. You kinda summed everything up.
Yeah,
I couldn't have said anything better, but about my well, I guess we could now talk about the characters a bit more because in one
yeah,
of the
sure.
podcasts we had to cut it off when we talked about them
Oh
because
yeah, now we don't have to anymore.
yeah, because we saw it as too much of a spoiler, but now we can actually talk about the
Yeah,
characters themselves. I played, of course, Alex Turner, and you played Samuel Vaughan.
yeah, but I really want to hear your thoughts about Turner and playing Turner. Like,
Uh, of the it's hard to pick a favorite character of the main characters, but I very much sympathize with Turner in many ways. If I had to pick some favorite character without any bias of the like the five heistmen, uh,
yeah,
I would probably pick Turner. I think playing him was amazing. We and me and Nathan got a lot of funny scenes to do
yeah,
together, and
yeah. I just when I wrote it, I just saw the fun that we'd have on set with that dynamic, and I had to keep it there.
yeah, they were really good. It was a good dynamic. It really was, and I really enjoyed it. It's along one of my favorite roles I played.
Yeah,
With Jones, of course. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah. I wrote Turner as well. I tried to write all the characters very deep
mm,
and like having multiple layers, and that's what I went with. Turner and Planchet. Like, Turner ends up being the one who's a little more fast tempered, although he controls it for quite a while. But before he attacks Planchet, there he uh, he has it well under control. But then his lust for vengeance and well, those two characters have a very very different idea of security and survival. Like, whereas Planchet sees the only way out is escaping the country, getting a new name, getting a new passport, and everything that he plans there. But then we have Turner, who at first he from the get go he says that they need to go after Richmond rather than escape him. And I just thought that like that contrast, writing that contrast between those two best friends on top of everything, that's that's really really the point about these two characters. Seeing that contrast where you know Planchet and Turner being friends since childhood, but then they have this one different opinion, which has massive contrast, and they clash over it, and just was a lot of fun running that dynamic and then seeing it unfold.
yeah.
Amazing.
But by the way, I have to really give some credit to Nathan about his performance because, as I said before, that I really sympathize a lot with Turner. He himself told me that it's kind of hard acting as Blanchett because he himself considers Turner to be the more sensible one in the
Yeah,
case, uh, and just huge credits for that.
yeah, yeah. He did really well, and you know, I always tell this, but he's just amazing with his lines. He always knows them by heart beforehand. Yeah, that was a pleasure to see, as per usual. But you know, without taking any sides, I totally see the point. But you know, there that's really the point of it there. Like, I guess if you ask somebody else, maybe they would agree with Blanchett more than Turner. Like,
Mm, yeah, about your character now, maybe.
yeah. Uh, my intention with Warren was like, well, obviously at the first it seems like he's a crook, but then it turns out he's a cop. And but the whole idea of that character was to write. I guess I kind of made myself a character actor in this film. I gave him a little bit of a like a generic role, let's say goody two shoes kind of guy who's just trying to get on the bottom of this and trying to solve the whole crime and get the Iridescent back. That well, he's a man on a mission. He's been undercover for 18 months, as they say, and then I guess it kind of unleashes the beast when he finally gets to be himself again, and he doesn't have to act like he's one of the gangsters. It just gets to be the crime fighter again. But then again, being too much of himself again, maybe that was what cost him. He trusted people too much, and uh, and he was a little too blue-eyed at the end. He had grown into a world where you couldn't trust anybody, and then finally, when he got the chance to trust someone again, that bit him in the ass basically. And it was a lot of fun to do that character. I mean, it doesn't really differ a lot from the usual character that I play, some agent or policeman or a soldier, which is like what I'm typecast as by myself. But there's that crook side to him at the beginning, especially. It was nice to play that sort of role. But yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun and trying to be like really blue-eyed and make that believable. And I must say that some of my favorite stunts that I've done for our films have been as as Warren. All three times that he got shot were really fun to do, especially the middle one, the second one at the hill. Like the spin was awesome. Like the first one where he falls off the cliff. Well, in that sentence, you have a hint. Falling off a cliff, it's not especially fun, especially if you're falling into a pool of mud. But you know, the second one was quite fun. Well, the third one, I busted my knees, but it still looked good. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And obviously, the one take fight scene at the Delacroix building, that was a lot of fun to do. And I strive for those sort of action scenes. The hell did you do?
I I accidentally swallowed a minthon
Oh,
whole. I had just
okay.
put it into my mouth. Yes, please continue.
No, no, I was just done. That's why, because I've been
Yeah,
looking at you. I've been
yeah.
looking at you through your webcam for like 10 minutes now, and wondering like what the hell is wrong with this guy.
Yeah, it might be kind of weird because they would see my face, but you do
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything more about the
I
iridescent
guess we
then.
can cover the other characters later with the other guys when you get
Yeah.
get them on the second season.
Mm,
So yeah, and maybe I can throw in some pointers before you do those questions, so we get everything out there.
right. Uh, hmm. Should we actually now that we'll get a full length episode? Should we also talk about some of the other projects that we have already
Yes,
done this
sure.
year?
Yeah,
I think we covered last time we talked. I think we covered up to like Evan Roscoe, the
yeah. I
man
think
from
we talked
Scandinavia.
about Death to Spies, the man from Scandinavia.
Yeah. So after that there was hold on, Civil War 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Civil War 5. Well, well, yeah. What can I tell? What can I tell that you don't already know by looking at the film? It's a lot of fun, and obviously, me and Eddie and Osiris had a lot of fun filming that opening scene. Yeah, that was that was a fun night, and Ducky Socks got to make their Fox Studios debut, and the clone stuff is always fun to do. So once we got to the main bits of the actual film, it was a lot of fun to do the shootouts with the Eddie clones, and everybody was really on board that day. It was a nice day. It was a little cold, but it was like warm enough to roll around in the snow all day. And yeah, it was a lot of fun just to shoot with the guys the whole day on the yard. Now looking back at it, I was working on the special effects like the mushroom flashes and stuff of the iridescent, while I also had to do the effects for Civil War 5. So if I could do something differently, I'd go back to Civil War 5 and make the effects a bit better because I had to kind of rush them. But
Mm.
it's what it is, and they still look pretty good. But could have done some things a little differently. but but altogether that film has some nice action sequences on the yard as usually at the coal estate, and has a couple of sequences that I was a big fan of. uh, Also, I have to mention that while we shot Civil War 5, I was really concerned with, we did a stunt where we tried to film a stunt where a power bomb Nate, but we kind of fell short with that, and I don't know if it was just too much weight or did I slip or something, but we had a bit of an accident there. But obviously, nothing ended up happening, but it could have been bad. So instead, we went with the sequence where I just kick him in the face instead. But yeah, that memory has stuck with me from that day of filming, and just glad it wasn't any worse. Obviously Civil War 5, it's uh, it's a setup. It's a setup for the next film in the series, Civil War 6, which is basically going to be the end game of the Civil War series. I'm not saying that's going to be the last one, but obviously it's setting up towards a big finale against a horde of Thomas clones, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be, the rest of the gang is going to get together Avengers style, and we're going to go after Thomas clones, who obviously Thomas was behind Order 66. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to go to the next chapter of that story. And yeah, Civil
Mm.
War 5 was a lot of fun to do.
Well, what's the next one? Oh yeah, there's the Iridescent official trailer. Actually, by the way, you made these trailers yourself, the Iridescent ones.
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
that one
okay.
myself.
Yeah, you always complain that you don't like making them, but they were
I
really good.
hate making trailers, but for the Iridescent, I just had to do it myself. And also, since Pauli JC usually does our trailers, but I didn't want to spoil the film for him,
Yeah.
so I wanted to do that myself. And there were very certain things that I wanted to show in the trailer, so it was just better to do it myself. And it's a very good trailer.
Right. Okay. Then wrong
Right.
turn.
Okay.
wrong
Enough bragging.
wrong turn was the next
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, wrong turn. Well, obviously, it was still around the time that we were working on editing in the Iridescent, and we didn't have a lot of time besides that to do other stuff. So we just decided to do something simple, and you happened to be visiting us here up north, and we had a little bit of time to spare, and you had a nice location to use. So we just went and did a little fight scene, and it's a lot of fun as well. And we intentionally didn't do a lot of uh, special effects in that, just sneaking around and fighting. So it didn't really overwork me while I was working on the iridescent. And it was the first time that we actually tried to show somebody being thrown off a balcony.
Yeah, it worked really well. That's easily my favorite part of the film.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Throwing
pretty
you off
good.
a balcony.
Yeah, no, that's always fun. But yeah, that's a technique that I'm more comfortable using with now that I've already done it a little bit. So obviously we can use stuff like that more efficiently in the future now. So yeah, that was probably one of the best things about that film. And yeah, it's it's a fun little short one, and it's funny how over the years our fun little short ones have gotten so much longer because. Like 4 years ago, we talked about a fun little short one. We did a 2 minute film. But now, when we do a fun little short one, senseless action, it's gonna end up being like 10 minutes still.
Yeah. Uh, a man called Rome.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a
Mm,
big one. You know, for a man called Rome, I wanted to do a western ever since I was like 6 years old. Like, I always tell about the films that I've seen first. Like GoldenEye was the first action film I saw. Then I saw Mission Impossible, a couple of other films here and there. But then some of the first ones I saw as well were some of the old Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns, and because our father is a huge fan of those, and we spend many days watching those on VHS tapes, and I always wanted to do something western related, and it's always been kind of my idea to replicate the spaghetti western style, but modernize it, not exactly do everything like they did, but use those tropes like the long shots, close-ups, and then the extreme wide shots, and I just love the style of those films, but I obviously realized that we would have to modernize it. But the thing is, I also wanted to do more of those. I never intended to just do one, because the real salt of the original spaghetti westerns is that there are thousands of them. There are thousands of those westerns made in Italian Spain in the 1960s and 1970s, and that's their whole own genre. And since the beginning, when I imagined this, that I wanted to make a western, I thought that I do want to make like a western universe, and that's what we're doing with A Man Called Rome. It's the first Karelian pie western. I guess the name is kind of misleading since these westerns are set in Antnia, but since they're made in Finland, we just call it Karelian pie western. And but yeah, it's A Man Called Rome. You just gotta go and see the film. It's a fantastic film. But it was also the first one that we used our new camera on, and that's it looks pretty badass. Anyhow, it's supposed to be the start of a Karelian pie western genre, and so there's a lot more of those coming. When, I don't know, but the intention is to make another one next year. But when and the specifics, those are yet to come. But stay tuned. There will be more Karelian Pie westerns from Foxway Studios soon enough. But go see A Man Called Rome. It's a fantastic film with a lot of like unique tropes, but also a lot of homage to the great Italian spaghetti westerns of the 1960s, the Sergio Leone movies, but of course also you know everybody else who had a name in those days. I guess you know Parolini. Who else? What? Well, at least Parolini and Leone, but there's a lot of great directors back in the days of the 70s.
okay. Uh, well, we haven't published. Well, we actually did publish the trailer
Yeah,
for Always Secret.
yeah, and I've just finished the final edit of the film. So yeah, yeah, George Whitebook always fun to do. The Cold War plots. It's a whole different world with Jack Stone and the other modern films we do, The Club and even Roscoe, the other franchises. We don't really get to deal with Nazis, the Soviet Union, space race, and those kind of subjects. So yeah, always secret, a lot of fun to do, and obviously the Whitebrook films all just give me a lot of fresh opportunities as a writer. to explore really different plot ideas and stuff. So yeah, always secret is I'd refer to it as the Moonraker of the George Whitebrook films. So yeah, it's coming out this coming Friday, October 22nd. So yeah, that's all I really had to say about that. But it's check it out.
Right. Uh, well, then I guess films that are gonna be coming out that are
Yeah,
either currently in production or pre-production or whatever.
yeah. At first, I could take the time to make a slight announcement. Um, from now on, or before now, for the past 2 years or so, we've been really strict about releasing something monthly. Now, don't be shocked or surprised if there's not a new video every month. It's still my intention to do videos as often as possible, maybe monthly, maybe even more often. But for now, we're not focusing on doing projects just because we have to get a video out every month. We are focusing on projects that really mean a lot to us, that mean a lot to me. I'm writing films that I really want to make
So,
instead of doing something quick. I don't mean that there have been some films that have been made just because we have to release something, but I want to focus on things that I want to do instead of things that I have to do out of necessity of the channel.
so it's not as if the schedule itself is actually winding, but that the schedule doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and we're still going to be releasing stuff very frequently, but just that it might be faster, it might be slower, but there's really we'll keep you posted. Follow my Instagram if you're a part of the LIF. You'll obviously get all the updates there, and yeah, it's but we'll keep you posted on what's coming and when. And especially you can follow this channel, the Extras channel. On the podcast, you'll get all the news as well.
Yes. So,
Yeah, future. I'll take the time to make a few announcements. First of all, we've been working on this. I guess you could call it a mockumentary. I guess you,
oh
I
yes,
guess you could call it a sitcom as well. But it's a comedy series with starring the Foxway Studios cast and maybe some special guests as basically themselves. So let's say exaggerated versions of themselves because we're not actually criminals. But it's something that you have to see to understand. But it's in the style of the great mockumentaries like The Office, Trailer Park Boys, and it's basically the premise of the show is that Alex has some money and he moves in to my shed and we start a criminal empire. And a lot of things happen in that show. It's supposed to be a little bit of reality TV. It's also like a mockumentary and a situational comedy. So there will be probably a trailer of that at some point. We have filmed 3 episodes so far, and the intention is to make a lot more. So until then, until we have a lot more episodes, we won't be releasing any footage. But there will probably be some sort of trailer at some point, probably early next year or so. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
ju-
I'll say that.
just want to say that it's probably the easiest possible thing to film
Yeah,
while the quality doesn't really suffer from
yeah,
it at all.
yeah. It's improv, and it's
It,
mostly I have to say it's mostly in Finnish.
yeah.
So, but it will be subtitled. Don't worry about that if you're an international viewer or a listener.
Yes.
Don't yawn at me, you little piece of producer.
So
Let's get to the blockbuster announcements, like the actual big films that we are working on. Just a week ago, into production went da, 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 the Club 2. It's we've officially started production. We filmed one scene, and it's gonna be a lot wider structured than the first one. But that's all I'll say about the plot and stuff right now. It's gonna be a more of a personal mission. And I know we've announced the Club 2 on several occasions now, but now's the perfect time to work in that film. And that is our current major project that we are working on, and we have two filming dates set for this week, and then another one in 2 weeks' time. Then we'll take a minor break to film something else in the meanwhile, and then we'll get back to the Club 2 in the winter when we have more of a wintry scene, because I want there to be a lot of different scenery from the first one. But yes, we filmed some portions, and we are continuing to work on that in the coming weeks. And it should be out sometime in the spring of 2022. But obviously, like I said, there's no set release dates, and won't be until we have everything finished. I'm taking my time to work on the effects of that film, because obviously the action portions are what really the selling point of this franchise. But yeah, that's in the pipeline. Besides that, there are some plans for some minor films, but those are something that live and live. So announcements of those coming whenever, and there have been talks about the future of George Whitebrook, but more about that maybe in a few weeks' time after the fourth film has been released.
Yes. Uh, do we have any other projects? I still have one thing to talk about, but
No, I don't at least have any announcements right now. That's
okay.
that's it from me.
Uh, well, I thought that it might be good to talk about now this channel because I there was kind of a break between making of the iridescent and the last video because uh, I guess it was simply because of we just ran out of content. The Foxway Gaming was already almost like a cry for help. It, because it was easy to do. It was sort of fun, and it was kind of like a mini podcast between me and you. But then that's kind of started running stale, and now the newest video making of the iridescent. Uh, well, that for on that I worked for like a couple of weeks total, maybe, and now that that is released, I don't know whether or not there will be a schedule for this channel
Yeah,
anymore
that's very good.
because it so I'll be honest, uh some of the content I've uploaded on this channel felt a lot forced, especially Foxway Gaming, but even some of the before seemed as if I was trying to force something out just to get a weekly upload. But I hope this kind of change will bring out more quality content and not Foxway Gaming or Eddie talking to himself while playing Call of Duty. Uh, one thing I could probably announce about this channel is the lore series that we've been kind of planning
Yes.
on. So I'll probably start on making like lore videos uh about our Antnian universe
Yeah.
and everything related to these films. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, it's a big thing, and we've established the Antnia universe in the series that is concerns. Like most of our stuff on the channel takes place in that world, that universe, and I think most people have picked up on it, but perhaps for some it's not that clear. And you know, even those people who have picked up on it and are on board with it know what it's about. It's a great idea to get the whole picture out there. Know what this country is, know what this area is, and we are always refer to a lot about the war in Stania and the Anthonian crime syndicates and the criminal underworld in Anthony, and the cities Nichols and Jacobtown are referenced a lot. The Iridescent took place in Converse City, and those these are ideas that people understand, but they don't really know much about it. For us as filmmakers, the whole Anthony universe is perfect because we can explain everything with that. That's just how things are in Anthony, and so on and so on. For people who are not very familiar with that concept, the Extras channel will be helping with that soon.
it, it's great because there is a lot to talk about that world, the Andean world, but they, it's hard to get some of that information out from from the films themselves.
Yeah, and it's hard to put that into the films itself because these characters are living in that world. It's it's as obvious to them as to us. It's Finland, or to our American friends. They know how their country is like. Our British friends, they know how their country is like. Our Swedish friends know how their country is like. Just in the same sense, the people in our films, well, they're Antonians. They know how they know everything around them. So we just try to throw those breadcrumbs into the films, and just so you can pick up the universe from that. But it's a good thing we're gonna start and properly establish that through this lore series that Eddie is working on with my help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get that series started.
Yes. Well, I'm running out of topics now.
Yeah, no, that covers everything, I think.
Yeah. Uh. Well, I guess that's about it then.
Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you for listening to this. Go check out Foxway Studios. Go check out Tony's Instagram. Go check out everything. And I'll see you
you
next
know,
time.
you need to just record some outro for this. Let's just always throw that in there.
uh, Thank you for listening and goodbye.
Goodbye.